Right, joining us is my colleague Deepika Mehta, who is standing by in Patna, and also joining us is our guest Aditi Tandon, Associate Editor of The Tribune newspaper. Ladies, welcome to this broadcast. If I can come to you first, Deepika, what's the mood like where you are?
Good afternoon, Ramesh. You can see behind me the celebrations are going on since 2 hours now. For the past 2 hours, the Karyakartas here, the party workers are celebrating in great enthusiasm. I would request my camera person to zoom in and show you the visuals of how the party workers are celebrating since 11:30 rather. And the celebrations seem to they seem that they will continue till 4 or 5 p.m. until we'll have the official address by the party leaders here. Now, this is a very huge victory because not only it is a triple-digit mark for the NDA alliance here, but also they are crossing the 200 mark as well. Out of 243, crossing the 200 mark is not only an incredible performance by the NDA alliance here, but also one of the worst performance by the opposition, and especially the Congress, who's failed to deliver not only in the previously held general elections, but also talking about state assembly election and an important state like Bihar, where the opposition continuously fails to make a mark. So this is a very huge victory, especially when we talk, our viewers just heard Maithili as well. She is a very young contender. She is also winning that seat, that particular seat, which means that there is a 360-degree approach. If we talk about Jahanabad's candidate, who also seems to take a lead right now. So old people, which means experienced people, young generation is also focused upon. There is a focus on all sort of voters. So there seems to be a 360-degree approach when we talk about this Sushashan ki Sarkar, or the government of discipline.
Indeed, Deepika, do stay on. Let me go across to our guest, Ms. Tandon. Ms. Tandon, how do you, or what do you read in this election verdict as the numbers are coming up?
See, Ramesh, the biggest outcome and the message of this verdict is that it is a resounding verdict and mandate in favor of Prime Minister Modi at the center and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar at the state level. In fact, the NDA's plank line that this is going to be an election fought under the leadership of Narendra and Nitish has driven the message home. That's the biggest message, that it's a verdict of trust in the ongoing governance and delivery mechanisms of the NDA dispensation, and overall vote for the government. Because you see, there was a large and a very deep-seated sense of anti-incumbency when it came to the opposition camp. They did believe genuinely that Nitish Kumar, having been the Chief Minister of Bihar now for almost 19 years, except a brief period between 2014 and 2015, might actually face some sort of an anti-incumbency sentiment, but clearly there was none. And what also is standing out in this verdict is that across segments, that across communities, castes, and across geographical regions of Bihar, the voters have put their faith in the NDA dispensation. The Muslim Yadav composition that was said to be working in favor of Tejaswi Yadav and Rahul Gandhi of the Congress in the Simanchal belt seems to have failed. For me, a particular seat of interest, Ramesh, is Madhepura. Madhepura is a seat where in the entire election history of Bihar, never has a non-Yadav candidate won. Always a Yadav candidate has won this seat. The RJD sitting legislator is a 3-time legislator, and he has been defeated today by a woman candidate of the JDU. I think that spells a tectonic shift in Bihar's deeply caste-ridden, polity. Does this really mean today's verdict has actually gone beyond the metrics of caste and communities, with NDA getting votes from all segments, from all regions? What explains this vote? This is a very interesting shift that remains to be studied. Whether this is the first sign that Bihar is now finally moving ahead of caste politics, closing the doors behind community lines, and looking forward to a politics of development and governance and aspiration. That's a matter of deep academic study, but on the surface, that's what it appears. Also, the second lesson, the biggest lesson of this verdict is for the opposition. I have been saying on your own program since morning that this is an aspirational India People are looking for hope. We are headed towards lofty goals of Viksit Bharat. We are advancing towards the goal of third largest economy in the world. I don't think people have time for negativity and frustration. This is the time of hope. The parties that manage to instill hope in the people, manage to show them a future, manage to deliver reasonably well on the promised agendas of governance are being voted back to power. And I don't mean only the NDA or the BJP. I also mean other parties in other states. You know, for example, you have had chief ministers being repeated. You've had MK Stalin being repeated in Tamil Nadu because people repose faith in him. He is delivering for the people what people want from him. So people are ready to repose faith in the leader repeatedly, provided they are being taken care of. There is politics of hope and there is politics of positivity. Clearly, the vote chori campaign that the opposition ran as a single dominant agenda of their canvassing has failed. Congress has bitten dust today. Congress really, really needs to introspect what has gone wrong with the party of Jagannath Mishra, the once dominant force in the eastern state of our country. Till at least 1985, Congress was the single largest party in Bihar, always winning more than 100 seats. What is happening to this party? It is in single digits now. It has repeated its worst performance of 2010 when it won 4 seats. And I think today the vote share of the Congress party is going to dip further than it was in 2010, which would then effectively mean that this is Congress party's steepest decline in the electoral history of Bihar. That's the message for the opposition.
Indeed, very interesting observations there, Ms. Tandon. Just on another point, related point, equally interesting, some would say, is the record turnout in this election, and 2, the record turnout of voting or polling percentage by women in particular. What would you attribute that to?
See, the women, we cannot and we should not make the mistake of thinking that women overnight took a decision to vote for Nitish Kumar and Narendra Modi combination. That's not the way politics works.
Right.
People do not get bought over by 10,000 rupees. The opposition might like to think that that's the case, but that's not the case. The point here is that Nitish Kumar at the Bihar level, and of course Prime Minister Narendra Modi is the first Prime Minister who has conscientiously cultivated women voters as a constituency. And not just symbolically. I do not mean symbolically. There have been meaningful changes, meaningful reforms brought about in the central government, in various arms of the central government to actually empower women. You now have fighter jets being flown by women. You now have women scientists driving the Chandrayaan-3 mission. You have Mudra loans, more than 60% claimants of Mudra loans being women. You have meaningful financial inclusion of women, which is giving them political agency. That's what the BJP is able to actually identify and cultivate. These are leaders who are looking at women as future leaders. And as I also said earlier, Ramesh, we are going to have the Women's Reservation Bill by 2029. Every party is looking at women now, not just as vote banks, they are also looking at women as leaders of the future. So women are emerging as a major constituency, which was not the case some years ago. Women were largely peripheral to Indian politics. Bringing women center stage to Indian politics, I think, must be singularly credited to Prime Minister Modi, of course, at the center, and Nitish Kumar very successfully at the state.
Absolutely. Ms. Tandon, do stay on. Let me go across to my colleague Deepika one more time on this broadcast. Deepika, coming to you now, would you say that, taking off from the point where Ms. Tandon left, would you say that the Election Commission has redeemed itself all over again and is put to rest, dispel the myths or allegations of vote chori, vote theft, or how the special, intensive revision of voters list was played out during the campaign? The EC, with the benefit of hindsight, the results show themselves, has done a reasonably good job. No repolls, no violence, no deaths, unlike the past.
Indeed. When we look at the results here, the result and the outcome of the polling in both the phases, phase 1 and phase 2. First of all, starting from the planning itself, dividing in just 2 phases, that was once again an example of how well, how smoothly the Election Commission is planning towards the Bihar election. And then the polling, and then the number of polling stations we had, and then the number of initiatives ECI took to ensure a very free and fair democratic process. Now, when we talk about elections, it is not single-handedly monitored by Election Commission of India. All the party workers are also invited to different places, be it the polling station, be it the polling booth, or be it the counting centers. So all the representatives of the party workers are duly invited to participate in the entire process and raise their hand if they witness anything which is unfair. Now, very in an example of a very smooth process, such has not been the case in the entire in both the phases of Bihar election, and not even on the day of counting as well. Now, also to avoid that vote chori tag, to avoid that vote tricking mark, SIR was also done to verify the number of voters, and that also went on very smoothly before the polling itself. So the Election Commission of India, considering that what could be the probable allegations, they planned it out very nicely, and all the plans panned out very nicely as well till the counting day, which is today. Now, when we talk about that, what led, because as a guest was also saying it very rightly, that this is not an overnight outcome that we are witnessing. The number of women voters or the number of women supporters towards a particular party, as the results say, crossing the 200 mark in this case for the NDA, the women are supporting because they are getting such sort of benefits. Yesterday also, when we were present at the JP Ganga Path and we showed our viewers the visuals in a special broadcast of Battle for Bihar, we showed you that it was 8 o'clock in the evening, 7:30 in the evening, and there are so many women, there are so many kiosks, there are so many stalls which were run by women. That was not the case very much before, because this has been, Bihar has witnessed some of the key areas which have come under red zone. But now is the situation, fast forwarding it to the current year 2025, not only infrastructural development are happening, but a 360-degree approach for the betterment and empowerment of women is happening, and women of course want more, and that this is what they voted for today, and the results are in front of all of us. Ramesh.
Absolutely. I'll request Deepika, you as well as Ms. Tandon to stay on for some more time. Let me pull up some more news for the benefit of viewers joining us on this broadcast. BJP Kerala President Rajiv Chandrasekhar has said that the results clearly show that the people of Bihar have chosen to continue on the path of development, law and order, opportunity and corruption-free governance delivered by the NDA government over the years. Take a listen.
It is very clear from these election results that the people of Bihar have chosen to continue the path of development, of law and order, of opportunities, of corruption-free governance that the NDA government has been giving for several years now. And the result, the margin of victory, tells you how determined the people of Bihar are to continue the progress that has been made in the last several years and to continue going forward.
For his part, BJP MP Manoj Tiwari said that the mandate reflects the people's trust in Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, adding that the focus now should be on winning hearts through sensitive governance. Take a listen.
हैप्पी हर तरफ है बिहार के। मुझे लगता है कि जो ये रिजल्ट आया है इसकी समीक्षा बहुत सूक्ष्म करनी पड़ेगी। हाउ टू विन द हार्ट्स ऑफ पीपल, ये विषय चलना चाहिए। लोगों का दिल कैसे जीतें, ये मोदी नीतीश जी से पता चले। इस जीत का कारण एकमात्र है, वो है मोदी जी और नीतीश जी में बिहार की जनता का विश्वास। ये जीत है विश्वास की।
And BJP MP Manan Kumar Mishra spoke about the NDA's prospects in the Bihar election and the public sentiment he witnessed on the ground. He said the state's development will help the NDA form the next government. Take a listen.
एनडीए की सरकार 2/3 बहुमत से भी ज़्यादा से आना है। एग्जिट पोल भी दिखाई दे रहा था। हम लोग ग्राउंड पे रहे थे, हम लोग गांव में देहातों में लोगों के बीच में रहे थे, तो सामने था, जनता ये बोल रही थी, ऐसा नहीं है कोई छुपाने वाली बात। महिलाएं बोल रही थी कि मोदी जी और नीतीश जी को वोट देंगे, युवा वोट बोल रहे थे कि मोदी जी नीतीश जी को वोट देंगे। तो एनडीए की सरकार पूर्ण बहुमत के साथ बनेगी, ये बात कोई नई नहीं है, ये जानी हुई बात थी। विकास आप देख लें, बिहार में सड़कें देख लें, बिहार में बिजली की स्थिति देख लें, बिहार में अमन चैन शांति देख लें, तो इन सब का नतीजा है कि आज 2/3 से ज़्यादा बहुमत से हम एनडीए की सरकार बनाने जा रहे हैं।
Right, if I can go back to our guest on this broadcast, Ms. Aditi Tandon. Ms. Tandon, looking at the Bihar state as a whole and looking at the various regions, the 6 or 7 broad regions that are of consequence, barring and predictably Simanchal, the BJP NDA combined seems to have done predictably well in all the other 6 key regions, is it not?
Yeah, that's right. And that's actually a matter for a deep analysis. What has worked in favor of the NDA in all these segments, because it was not easy to convert campaign narratives into votes across board. What I feel prima facie is that 2 segments have clearly gone in favor of the NDA. One is the women vote has gone considerably in favor of Mr. Nitish Kumar and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The second is that, Ramesh, if you look at the demographics of Bihar, you will realize that Bihar is India's youngest state. If you look at the population, 40% of Bihar is below 18 years of age, and another 23% falls between the category of 18 and 29 years. So it is a very young state. Now, this kind of a mandate, as we saw today, actually means that Gen Z and the youth, as we call it, the youth segment, maybe also a lot of first-time voters, have chosen and have voted for the NDA ruling combination. What are the factors that drove them? Is it hope? Is it a politics of aspiration? Is it a feeling that only the NDA will be able to deliver the promise of 1 crore jobs that have been made by the NDA manifesto that we saw? A promise of jobs was made by Tejasvi Yadav also. You might recall that in the manifesto that Tejasvi released, which was a very controversial and debated manifesto, he said that I will give a government job in every family within 20 days of coming to power. Of course, it was debatable as to how will he give it or not. But the point that I'm making is that the youth appear to have trusted Nitish Kumar and Prime Minister Modi's combination on the delivery of the employment and job promises. The women appear to have trusted this particular dispensation with all the promises that have been made. See, 10,000 rupees that were given to the women of Bihar on the eve of elections were described by Prime Minister Modi, who was the one who disbursed this cash on if I'm correct, September 23. He said that this is not a dole. He made it clear that this is basically seed money, which is being given to women so that they can set up shops, set up some sort of enterprise. We will go and look at how they are doing. If they are able to generate income, then they will be also given access to a lump sum of around 2 lakh to enhance their business. So this particular, of course, it's a smart political strategy also, no doubt about it. But the idea is to take it beyond 10,000. So it will go up to 2 lakh, which means that Bihar women who have set up enterprise using that 10,000 rupees will tomorrow maybe convert into entrepreneurs for the state. They are calling it Jivika Didi program. So you see, these things appear to have worked for the NDA. Also, don't forget, Ramesh, that Bihar is the second most rural, if I were to mention, after Himachal Pradesh. If you look at the census data, you'll realize that the percentage of rural population in Bihar is the second highest in India after Himachal Pradesh. What does it mean for Bihar to give such a large mandate to the NDA? This actually on the surface means that rural Bihar has reposed faith in the Nitish Narendra Modi combined. That also is a factor for deep analysis, because largely the opposition narrative against the BJP government at the center, NDA government, has been that they are promoting crony capitalists. But here is a case study. You have a state like Bihar, largely a poor state, still struggling to get into the development matrix, a rural economy, where you have almost the NDA dispensation now reaching its 2010 show, where they earned a 3/4 majority. They've already touched, I think, 200 plus mark. And in 2010, they had won 206 seats out of 243. That's a 3/4 majority. That's a huge mandate. So there are a number of takeaways from this particular verdict. I do agree with one of the guests who said, I think Manoj Tiwari, that this is a subject for very deep analysis. What worked for the NDA? There are factors that are apparent, but there are factors that are actually underlying that will take a while to surface.
Right. Ms. Tandon, I'll come back to you in just a bit, but if I can go across to my colleague Deepika one more time on this broadcast. Deepika, you've spent the last several days and weeks now covering the election campaign for us from Bihar, from the ground, traveling across constituencies. What's the sense you get about the main takeaways based on the verdict we know now in terms of the issues you covered, be it development? All right, we'll try to fix that link with Deepika in just a bit. But if I can go across to our guest one more time, Ms. Tandon, on this broadcast. Ms. Tandon, let's spare a thought now about the three relatively younger men who were in the fray. I'm talking here about Chirag Paswan, I'm talking about Tejaswi Prasad Yadav, and of course the Jan Swaraj Party's Prashant Kishore. Let's start with Prashant Kishore. What did you make of the performance of the Jan Swaraj Party and where he goes or his party goes from here?
See, Jan Swaraj Party, when it started off, Ramesh, did make a splash. We have to admit that Prashant Kishore was largely accepted by especially the youth of Bihar. Mm-hmm. He was talking a lot of reason. He was making very logical arguments which appeal to the youngsters, which would have appealed to youngsters anywhere for that matter. And as I just now said, Bihar being the youngest state and Bihar's political wisdom is well documented. It's a matter of history. We all know, it's a land of Chanakya and whatnot. So we have to understand that Bihar's youth, Bihar's citizen is a politically very alive person.
Right.
You cannot befool them with doles. You cannot befool them with alleged vote theft arguments. They know what they are hearing. They know what to make of who is saying what. So I think Prashant Kishore lost the plot when he refused to contest. Mm-hmm. Do feel that had he thrown himself headlong into the electoral battlefield, the result for Jan Swaraj Party would have been a little better. But I did not believe even from the beginning that they would make a splash in a very complex caste dominated matrix of Bihar politics. It's very difficult. Not every state or region is like Delhi, where an Arvind Kejriwal can come in and can dislodge a Sheila Dikshit. It's not that simple everywhere. But we must give credit to Prashant Kishore for trying. He, it's a courageous move that he made. Coming to Chirag Paswan, he's the rising star, Ramesh, of Bihar politics. Imagine he came out of nowhere. In 2020, he lost his father. He was still under the shadow of Ramvilas Paswan, the veteran socialist leader, who was well respected across the political spectrum.
Right.
Ramvilas Paswan died in 2020. Chirag Paswan made a quick political move of deciding to contest alone. Mm-hmm. He contested outside of NDA. Only because at that time Nitish Kumar did not recognize him as the political heir to Ramvilas Paswan. Mm-hmm. Nitish Kumar gave that tag and that description to his uncle, Pashupati Paras. So there was a tussle between Nitish Kumar and Chirag Paswan. But of course they all overcame all that and came together. And look where Chirag is today. He had gotten 29 seats in the seat arrangement. He is winning 22. Look at his strike rate. And just recently in Lok Sabha won all his 5 Lok Sabha seats.
Indeed.
Which is why he was actually given more assembly seats by the BJP during seat sharing. So he's the rising star. We have to watch out for him.
Absolutely.
And the third one that you mentioned, I forget.
Tejaswi?
Tejaswi,
very quickly, if you will. Yeah.
Tejaswi, a political dynast who has been unable to get out of the shadow of his father.
Fair enough. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. May I thank our guest, Ms. Aditi Tandon, and my colleague Deepika for joining us on this broadcast. Thank you for your time.